Hello everyone, welcome at the presentation Voices of Children in Brussels Neighbourhoods. In this presentation, we will give you a theoretical framework of the research we are carrying out. Look at the picture and feel what it tells you. For me, it shows a sense of agency, a voice wanted to be heard, a kind of eagerness also to make an impact. We hope to make an impact too, and that after this presentation, you have more questions than answers. We are both lecturers for the Bachelor in Early Childhood and Care at the Erasmus Brussels University of Applied Sciences and Arts. My name is Kaat. I'm a pedagogue and a researcher for the Center of Expertise in Urban Coaching and Education. My research focuses on narratives, identity, and children's rights. As a pedagogue, I'm a questioner, someone who asks questions and tries then to reinvent and reimagine educations with respect for the rights of the child.
My name is Joke. I have a background in visual arts and I combine my lecturing in Erasmus with activities as an artistic coach and atelierista in a childcare center. I am motivated through research to discover how art influences future professionals and the effect on children's development. As the coordinator of a Brussels Open Living Lab, I explore how to use materials as a way of intergenerational dialogue.
With this presentation today, we want to challenge the existing discourse and way we look at children. Nowadays, the focus is on the future of children. We look at children from a behavioristic point of view. It's about outcomes and goals, achievements. What in Belgium is called measuring is knowing. Developmental stages, learning outcomes show us the way in which children have to grow. Let the rat race begin. This kind of language influences our way of looking to and interacting with children. The research focuses on the Article 12 of the rights of the child, namely the right to express your own views freely in all matters affecting the child and giving these views due weight. Next to the non-discrimination, the right to life and development, and the primary consideration of the child's best interests, the right to be heard is one of the 4 general principles of the Conventions of the Rights of the Child. We know that certain groups of children, including younger children, as well as children belonging to marginalized and disadvantaged groups, face particular barriers in the realization of this right. The research wants to contest normalized conceptualizations of pedagogical practices and contribute to the research literature that offers hope in opening up lines of fight to reimagine the world through the voice of children. Most of the time, we focus on the top of the iceberg. The behavior of people, what we see. A lot of things stay unconscious, pre-reflective, even though what lays beneath the surface has an undeniable effect on our way of acting. In pedagogical practice, we focus on the way educational professionals interact with children and how they create an interesting environment. But we seem to forget that the intention of the adult to create these favorable conditions for the holistic development of the child are very much influenced by the perspective from that professional on the world. When we train our students, we try to convince them that when they want to create a durable change in practice, we have to go deeper than what meets the eye. We have to go under the surface of action. Building on previous research, we assume that identity is at the core of professional identity. So we believe we have to work with that identity of adults and children to make internal changes. Especially in the field of education, we are influenced by an internal compass, which contains our image of child, ideals about education, and our professional role. In working with children, we are strongly influenced by our own upbringing, and we have an undeniable effect on the upbringing of children. We need to be aware that we have our own personal perspective, but that we are often unconscious of how this perspective was formed. We are influenced by the stories that surround us, not only personal stories of the people closest to us, but also the stories of society, the discourse of society. The big stories that are taken for granted, that feel so natural, influence us. Our social place in society is not neutral, but connected to mechanisms of power. So we have to unveil this clouded view. As Van den Broek says, this is even more important if we want to make social change possible. In the way we interact with children, one of the things that influences us a lot is the image of child. How we look at children and what children tell us tells us even more about ourselves as adults than about children. Maybe that's why we're listening to children is very confrontational and thus maybe sometimes avoided. The way we look at children has an impact on the space children have to be and to belong. It is interesting to be conscious of the dominant image that you have or your organization portrays. If a specific child image is seen as normal, to be understood as normal, a child needs to fit in and become the norm. Children will assimilate to the norm or sometimes be marginalized because they are unable to fit in. If we are conscious about how we look at children, we can start to imagine other possible images that enable children to be present with their identity and story. In literature, there is a lot of time the distinction between the being child and the becoming child, and we want to go deeper into this. If we talk about the becoming child, we see the child as an adult in the making, who is waiting to become rational and competent. It is an adult-centered model in which we try to create a pathway that the child has to walk on to become a good adult. The focus is on the future and childhood is in transitional phase. Children are seen as immature, independent, and vulnerable. Here we see a big focus on the average child. There is a norm to which the child is mirrored, and if the child does not meet the norm, adults try to bring it so close as possible. Here, the norm is created by the expectations of the adult. Isn't that why we call being pregnant expecting a child? Influenced by the sociology of childhood, another child image was born, the being child, the child as an active actor actively constructing childhood, a child with agency, children's capacity to make decisions and choices to have an impact on one's world. Focus on the here and now and the space to be. In this regard, two interesting concepts came to play, vulnerability and natality. A lot of the time, vulnerability is seen as a deficit, independency of the other, something you have to grow out of to become an adult. Nussbaum gives us a beautiful new perspective in which she describes vulnerability as a strength, a kind of openness to the world, the ability to trust in certain things out of our control, a willingness to be exposed. And isn't this what children show us every day and what we can learn from them? In the view of Hannah Arendt, education can be seen as an intergenerational process in which children and adults try to find a way to live together in a common world, a world that already exists when children enter it, but has to be renewed by this new generation. The concept of natality tells that children are not mortal, but natal. It is about the capacity of bringing a new perspective to the world, and we have to take this perspective seriously. Education, as inspired by Arendt, has the purpose to invite children to come into the world. In this respect, education has a focus on the being of children, their newness. Every child has the capacity to bring something new into the world. Every perspective of the child is valuable. All children can or should be able to claim their place in this world. We, as educational professionals, have to open our eyes and hearts for children to see what they bring, who they are, what their story is. Only then we will be able to create a deep pedagogical relation. In this common world, it is important for children to feel openness for their story and perspective. In the research, we translate this to the fact that children need to feel a sense of being, their identity, and a sense of belonging, the connectedness to others. There is no I without the other. Identity is formed, built up by encounters we have throughout our lives. Identities are created through our ongoing social interactions and our subsequent self-reflection about who we think we are according to the social exchanges. Identity development is an ever-changing dynamic process that is contextual and socially constructed. Identity starts where I and thou meet. Through meeting the other, you become yourself. Identification and separation are the two main processes involved in the creation of identity. The other plays a crucial role in these processes. In the creation of an identity, we create layers by meeting important others. We want to see ourselves in others, identify ourselves with others, but at the same time, we want to be separated from others. We want to be an authentic self. Recognition and belonging are conditional to develop a strong identity. One of the significant others in the lives of children are the educational professionals. He or she has an undeniable effect on the being of children, their space to be or to belong.
What does the world look like through another's eyes? What does an experience feel like to someone else? We have to create an ideological environment that is characterized by a diversity of voices. So there are opportunities and possibilities for expanding our understanding of the world. We meet children. They are inspiring and they are diverse. When we see them, really see them, they start to grow and develop. To view them as powerful, awareness of our layered identity is crucial. Cultural and artistic experiences nurture consciousness and make us layered people. Through stimulating the art experience and encouraging to reflect, dynamic processes take place which can change people forever. And it's the layering that makes us strong and open, able to appreciate the other person's story. Educators working in early childhood should become the democratic educators we need in today's world. Therefore, they should be aware of their bias that steers their frame of reference. Through narrative imagination and reflection, they are enabled to take the perspective of the other. Part of the process of becoming aware involves the encounter with multiple voices. Art and culture can give rise to the meeting of alternative perspectives to inspire to look outward and to question and challenge some long-held beliefs.
How can we hear the perspective of the child? In which world do children want to live is a central question we ask to children. In the research, we use photo voice as a way to capture the stories. It is an interactive, creative method in which we hope to empower children to tell their story. In a former research, we used art-based data collection to uncover the sense of being and belonging of children. We asked the children to dream their school, and we interviewed them while drawing. In the second phase, we asked them to build in group their school using waste materials and giving them personages that were present in the drawing. We transcribed all the conversations. Using all data, we created a poetic transcript. By only using the words of the children, we tried to capture their voices, expressing their sense of being and sense of belonging in the school.
Brol is a Brussels open living lab where generations meet and inspire each other. Brol originates from the conviction that inspiring exchange with others through materials can lead to in-depth experiences through which research, development, training and education, meaningful interaction and room for failure and experiment can flourish. A primary function of art, according to Winnicott, is to protect and promote the development of the room for play in adult life. In his view, play is crucial to meet the other in a safe space. It makes the other person less threatening. Here again, art is given the function of nurturing and expanding the empathy. When people come together, there may be instances when they just do not understand each other's thinking. These can be moments of tension and conflict when ideas collide. The frustration of not understanding or not being understood dissolves when we literally see each other's thinking. We can make this thinking visible through creative activities. The way we bring the inner world outside tells us a lot about who we are and what occupies us. It makes the narratives visible. In each of us, a child is still present, and it is a challenging adventure to make this child visible again. Art seems to be the right tool to do so. Through play and invention, we create the space needed to let the story of the other emerge, to listen and hear the different point of view, and to conclude that we are different and similar at the same time.
In the research we are now carrying out, we want to build on this. This research wants to capture the voices and narratives of children in Brussels neighborhoods. It wants to improve real participation of children, in particular young children and children with low socioeconomic status, in the construction of a common world to live in. With children and their narratives, the research wants to create a sense of being and belonging for children in their neighborhoods, and through narrative meeting, challenge and broaden the perspective of adults and broader society. Using photo voice, we will let the children tell their story and create storylines with them. The significant others in their stories will be invited by the children for narratives meetings, in which we will create an open meeting space in which they will see each other's narrative using Braille. Research as listening. Listening implies an openness to uncertainty, to the unexpected, to differentiation. We want to listen to multiple perspectives and shared understandings, to many languages of children, a kind of listening that does not produce answers, but formulates questions. Make ourselves stumble and come to a stop, silence, and then reimagining new beginnings.